Tonight, writing a good thesis, how to organize, write, and succeed. It's going to be presented by myself, and we'll take it from there. First of all, what is a thesis? What is a thesis? This is something that everyone is going to do, but let's understand what it is. This is a formal academic document that presents the full results of original research conducted by yourself, the author. It's usually submitted as part of the requirements for earning an academic degree, such as a master's or doctoral degree, the ones all of you are enrolled in now. So somewhere on the line, you'll be expected to write a thesis and submit it, a very vital part of your academic work. Uh, what we'll be covering tonight is not just about the thesis particularly. Some of the things we'll talk about here, you will use them to write other parts of your assessments, other courses. But yeah, we're focusing on the thesis. So at the end of your course, I think it's in the last trimester, you'll be expected to work on a thesis that you're going to submit. The key things to understand about your thesis is that it has to be an original research, an original research that is started by you, it's owned by you, that you have to collect and analyze data, or you want to do a critical synthesis of existing literature. Okay, it has to have a structured argument, and it must be contributing something to the whole research and academic environment. It will demonstrate your ability to engage with and contribute to the academic community by addressing a particular problem. And it will be a critical analysis of what already exists and what you plan to do and how you're going to do it. So this thesis we're talking about is like if it's for a BSc project in Nigeria, it says a project work. If you're doing your PhD, it might also be called a dissertation. But in all, you're going to submit a thesis at the end of your master's, produced by you and authored by you. So it's very important. For most of the schools, this is about one third of your degree. That's if it's a master's, if it's a third master's, it's usually the third trimester and carries about a weight of three different courses. So this is very, very important. I don't know how it is for different courses, but you should be able to find out that from your school portal. This is something that if you ace it, if you score very highly in the thesis, it will lead you towards the academic excellence that you desire by coming to the UK. That's uh, that's what thesis looks like. Remember that the primary aim of the thesis is not to tell the readers what you did, is not to explain what you did, but to tell what you discovered. So when you're talking about your thesis, it's not about, okay, just explaining what you did. The final aim is to say, this is what I discovered. This is my contribution to this particular field. It has a structure. It has a structure. This might differ a bit for particular assessments, assignments, but for the general structure of the thesis, there are things you need to you will expect. Not all the assignments you will be given will have all these elements, but your final thesis might just have all the elements. The first one is the title page, where you write your name, the course, and the school, and everything. The design of it, it's not the big deal. The big deal there just to have the details, the author's name, the institution, and what you did. After the title page, there's the abstract. We'll come to all of them one after the other. But this is just like, let me quickly tell you what they contain. Then the abstract, where you summarize the research question, the methodology, the findings and conclusions. Then the acknowledgements, where I want to thank social person, thank social person, thank social. This acknowledgement is not going to feature in every of the assessments you'll be given, but it will most likely feature in the last thesis you're going to submit before you graduate. Then you have the table of contents. This table of contents is, I will have to take out time to probably show you how to make table of contents. There is a tool in Microsoft Word. There's how to automatically make table of contents, and many people don't know about it. So they have to be typing page numbers themselves and all those things. But if you know how to use the tool inside Microsoft Word, you automatically do your table of content. If we have time sometime, I will show you that. Then the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, the results and the findings. Then you go to the discussion. Excuse me. Then you conclude on the work you've done. You also have your references and the appendices at the end of it. We're going to take all these sections in detail, one after another. As far as we can go tonight, we'll get there. Then at the end of the day, we'll continue the next time. So, excuse me, I have a bit of a cough. The abstract. You see this abstract? This abstract is one place that a lot of people don't even know what to do. Is it a summary? Is it a conclusion? Is it an introduction? So this abstract is a very important part of your work. This is the summary of the whole thesis. It will present all the major elements of your work in a highly condensed form. It's usually between 150 to 300 words. You will find the exact word count in your thesis brief. So you see that this is really condensed. At the same time, it has to be structured and it has to carry everything. The structure of your thesis should mirror the structure of your whole work. The structure of your abstract, I mean, should be like a mirror of the whole work you have done. All the elements of your work will feature somehow in your thesis because this thesis is what am I saying? In your abstract, sorry. Because the abstract is the first point of call for anybody that wants to assess your paper. If you remember the last meeting we had when Doctor was trying to show us some literature review tools, the first place you want to review is the abstract to know if this work is worth my time. So this is like your best foot, where you say you want to put your best foot forward. Your abstract is where anybody will decide to read your work or not to read your work. This is not for your lecturers who score you. They'll definitely read your work. But assuming this is going to be published anywhere, at the abstract is where whoever sees your document is going to decide, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I'm going to read this. So that's why I say abstract is very, very vital. It will have all the elements, a bit of introduction, literature review. There should be at least one sentence in your abstract that talks about these sections. You don't have to section them, but when I get to that point, I'll show you. Your abstract should read like an overview of your paper, not a proposal of what you intended to study or accomplish, which means that before you write your abstract, you have finished the work itself. It's not like we're tempted to, because it's at the start of the document, we are tempted to start writing almost immediately, start writing our abstract before we write the rest of the work. No, the abstract is like, I have completed this work. Let me now tell you how I did this work. A very condensed version of everything you did. So it's good practice to leave writing your abstract until you have finished your work. Importantly, don't forget the results. Inside that abstract, you are expected to state the result of that research. Not like there's a results section where you detail everything. But for instance, if I write an abstract and say sweating causes body odor, and this has been thought to be a biological or whatever issue, we in this research we tested. Excuse me, somebody's audio is on. It's conflicting with what we're saying. So please, could you mute yourself? So at the end of the day, I can say we found that so that sweat is not really responsible for body odor. That just that one line is enough to show the results that we found. So in that your abstract, make sure that at least you throw in the results of that research. This on my screen right now, excuse me, is a typical abstract. This is like an example abstract from the sciences that we use to look at the very elements. Several studies have reported reprogramming of fibroblasts into induced cardiomyocytes. However, reprogramming into blah, 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 it's been color coded to show you the elements of this abstract. The first part, which is lightly pink, it announces the topic under study. It summarizes what's already known or been accomplished in previous research and signals the rationale and goals for the new research and the problem that the new research solves, which means that the abstract has introduced what is the industry saying, what is general research saying about this, and what they're now saying about this has led us to now see that there is a problem, and this is the problem we have attempted to solve in this research. And if you look at it, it's not a statement of your research question, which is going to come somewhere in your introduction. You're not stating your research question here, but you're showing what your research problem is. I don't know if that makes sense. You're not going to say, normally when you're writing your introduction and you say the research will attempt to answer these problems. What is the cause of migration, blah, 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 blah. That is how you write it in the introduction part. But for the abstract, it's more like in this research, we try to explore the effect of this. You're not asking the question directly, but you have said what the research problem is. Okay? Then the second part, where you see here, we report the combination of this. This person is already reporting the solution they found. And the person is now saying, this is how we did this, and this is how we found this. So, for instance, I could say if maybe I'll just find one particular analogy to use. Maybe you're researching the effect of AI on the education of young girls, for instance, and you're like, if I want to write this abstract, you start with it's been found over the past 5 years that the effect of AI on education of young girls has been understudied. We now set out to explore how introducing AI to girls at the age of 6 will affect their cognitive ability by the time they turn 17 through a quantitative analysis of of what do you call it, of data collected over 4 years, over four months from a group of maybe 35 young girls in Southeast Nigeria. We were able to find that artificial intelligence has a negative impact on this and that. I have introduced the general research area. I have talked about my method, and I have also quickly introduced the result, right? Then, after introducing the result, if you look at the blue part, it goes to talk about the implications of your result in the greater sphere of things. So I'll now say that we now found that AI has a negative effect on the education of girls. This now opens up discussion on the possibility of adopting AI for education of girls starting from when they are younger. I have created a story, I've created a narrative, found the problem, said how I solved the problem, and related the problem to the bigger world, the bigger research environment, the implication of what I have done. That is a good abstract. So somebody who reads that abstract, that's okay. And now I know what this work is about. I know the results they achieved, and then I know the implication of this work in my research. So if I want, I can now go ahead and read it. That's the whole idea of abstract. Guys, excuse me, I have a bit of cold over the week. So you see, an example, make sure that there is a map. You start from the bigger map to your particular problem, to how you solved it, and then to the implication to the wider community. Remember that abstract is not about what you intend to do, except you're writing a research proposal. If it's an abstract of your thesis, this is work that you have done. So you're reporting the result for what you have done. It's slightly different if it's you're proposing the research, right? You're proposing the research. You could use this like it's expected that, or this is what you want to do. But if it's your thesis, you have done it. So that's the abstract. I've told you how you need to structure it, and now I've shown you an example. Immediately following the abstract, okay, let me give you a quick picture. I talked about your abstract having different elements of all your work. If you look at this part, that's the part that says, is this my arrow? If you look at this part, all these parts, one, two, three, four, five, these are like the things you would see normally on your thesis. I'm going to show you how to include all these things into your research. And remember, this is just for context. This is just to give you an idea. So, introduction, you establish the paper context and the motivation for the research. You see, key phrases that you can use. This study builds on earlier research. Like I used, and I said, earlier research has shown that, or extensive research has been conducted around the area of, or from previous studies by so. In abstract, normally you don't reference, yeah, you don't reference people. But what it means is, look at these key phrases within the framework of blah blah blah. This study builds on earlier research. That's where you're starting from, right? This study goes to examine the effect of so on so, or goes to examine how introducing stimulus will yield this result. For instance, I remember some guy that chatted me about, I think it's AI farm on farm charts or something. I can't remember exactly what he said. But for instance, if that's your project, you're starting from the bigger picture. Within the farming industry, the introduction of artificial intelligence has not been fully explored. This study examines the effect of this particular type of AI on so. We try to this study addresses the limitation that had always existed. This you're already building a, a coherent story. That's your purpose. Therefore, the method, like I said, you should introduce elements of your whole thesis into the abstract. A quantities analysis was used by using a combination of qualitative and quantitative analysis. We were able to. So you have briefly introduced how you did it. That's your method or your methodology. Okay, sorry, excuse me. So you briefly show what you did. Like I said before, a group of 35 young ladies between the age of 6 and 10 were interviewed between 2006 and 2007. The results show that these are like key phrases, right? These are key phrases that can help you understand the structure of your abstract. You are telling a story that is interesting to someone to read, right? Then you also go to the conclusion. Remember, all this is still inside your abstract. At least one sentence or two sentences. There's no brick and mortar rule to it, but this is just to form a picture in your head from the wide audience, take it to your research problem, then go to how you did it, show your results, and then talk about the implication in the wider. research community. That is where I say this research confirms previous studies that introducing this to this to this to this. That is the end of the abstract. And your abstract is tight. I remember I said the abstract, you don't have to write it before you start the research or before writing the other parts. You can absolutely, you should write your abstract after you have done your work and you know exactly what you did because you need all the information in the abstract. After the abstract, you go to your introduction. You go to your introduction. This is where you incite the reader to read the rest of the thesis by establishing the context of your topic, the motivation for undertaking your work, and the importance of your research in the introduction. There are three things, there are like three things you need to achieve in your introduction. One, you have to establish your territory. Say what the topic is about, the general topic. Then you establish your niche, and then you introduce the current research. That is that thing you're doing now, what you're trying to answer. Look at it like, this, what do they call it? This time, what do they call it? This shape, like a cone, like a funnel. Look at it like a funnel. You start as wide as this, talking about AI. For instance, now you want to do AI in agriculture or in a particular farming practice. But now you start from talking about AI generally. What is even the AI? How does AI come into agriculture? You're starting to create a picture of the area. Then you start coming down to how it now you're bringing it down to where you are. How is AI now being implemented in this particular type of agriculture? From there, you now go straight to that is why we are now attempting to answer this question. It's usually be like this research, the whatever has the following research questions. Maybe one question and few follow-up questions, or it may just be one question. So start wide, establish the big territory, talk about the topic. If it's data analysis, if you're given a set of data to analyze, for instance, you could start from why do you even need to analyze data? What is the importance of analyzing data in the first place? Or the 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 what you can use data to achieve in governance, for instance. This is not directly tied to the particular work you're doing, but you're starting from a wide perspective and trying to narrow it down to what you're doing before you now introduce your research question. Those are the things you will want to put in your introduction. You're telling a story, right? You're telling a story. What's happening here? Okay. Guess I'm trying to get this. Just give a second. Did anybody notice my slide is frozen? Mhm. Okay. Okay. So the stages in the thesis introduction, I'll just try to list as many things as possible. State the general topic and give some background, like I said. Provide a literature review related to the topic. Restrict copy to literature review, just a bit of it. Define the terms and the scope of the topic. Outline this current situation. Evaluate the current situation. Identify the importance of what you're doing. State your problems and the aims and objectives. Then you can make hypotheses. Depending on the area, there's a little bit of difference between humanities and social sciences and STEM. Some of their structures differ. I'll come to them in a bit. But as a general rule, these are the things you have to put. Then also, you can now give further information about how your thesis is organized. You know how you read, you say the rest of this thesis is organized as follows. You put a brief explanation of the sections to follow so that the person who is reading how is flowing with you. Remember, the idea of the thesis is that the person who is reading it was not the one that did the research, was not the one that did the experiment, but you want that person to be able to flow with what you have done. So that's where you have to sometimes you outline the order. You say the rest of this paper is organized as follows. Chapter this does this, chapter this does this, just to give a sense of flow. That is what you also do in part of that introduction. Yes, and then immediately after your introduction, you'll be going to your literature review, which is where many people also shudder. Many people fear once they hear literature review, just as they fear when they see abstract. The literature review by is your demonstration that you understand what is happening in this field. You know what is happening in this particular area of your research. A piece of academic writing that demonstrates the knowledge and your understanding in that specific topic. You have a critical evaluation of the materials you're talking about. That's why it's called a literature review, not a literature report. This is very difficult or very easy to miss. A lot of people, when they want to do literature review, they begin to just report things that so paper said this, so paper said this, so paper said this. That is just the beginning of the literature review. No, your task is to build an argument, not a library. What does that mean? You're not mainly just saying, so paper said this, so paper said this, paper said this. There are different ways to do it. That is a part to start. But your main work is to be able to critically analyze what those people said. For instance, Mr. A says uh, that girls that exposing girls to artificial intelligence will affect their long-term mental health, for instance. But he failed to recognize what writer B said, that that is not the case because it has been proven by experiment that this. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. You're trying to build a coherent argument. Like you're trying to demonstrate that you understand what these people have said and you can draw lines connecting them. It's not just about summarizing different literatures. No, it's about finding the connection between those literatures. What are the common themes in them? What are they saying that is the same thing? Where do they agree? Where do they disagree? Where did this person have a shortcoming? And maybe somebody is reporting an experiment that he did, but the problem is that maybe his sample size was small, or maybe he sampled from another part of the world. You begin to acknowledge the weaknesses and the connections of those articles to make a good argument. It's not just about reporting author A said this, author B said this. It's a matter of author A said this, which is also in line with what author C said, but is in disagreement with what author D said. But across three of them, they all agree that this is automatically whoever is marking or reading your work knows that this person understands what they are saying. It's not author A said this, author B said this, author C said this. No, it's more like author A said this, author B said this. Two of them, they disagree at this point. But this their disagreement point is where author C now comes in, which means in three of them, so you are making sense. You're just talking like a lawyer. I know the lawyers here will understand that they will have a feel of this. So you are building an argument, not a library. Some of the works you'll be citing, the people who are scoring you have read them. Some of the works you'll be citing, the people who are reading your article have read them. So they're not waiting for you to come and summarize for them. This is not a case of I have the summary too. I'll just put in one AI to summarize, I'll bring it up to the literature. No. You need to be able to string all the literature you've read together to make a coherent argument. So to prepare for your literature review, You need to search for reliable, accurate, and up-to-date material on a topic or subject. This is not the case like some of you who are doing data analysis that you've been asked to get data from a government website or something. If you're asked to do something, do that doesn't that's not about up to date. This is about maybe you're doing a subject, you're handling a subject that doesn't have that kind of requirement. You're expected to have accurate, up to date material. I showed you the last time how to use Google Scholar to search for peer reviewed articles and use other databases to collaborate to corroborate the claims and be sure that those articles are what they claim. I need to tell you that sometimes when you search online, you will find articles that have been written as part of student submissions. Students' projects are also available online. So be careful to ascertain the credibility and the authority of the papers you're using. So to prepare for it, search for reliable, accurate, and up-to-date material on a topic. Then read and summarize the key points from that literature. That's the first part. Then synthesize those key ideas, theories, and concepts into a summary. So it's not about just summarizing them individually. The key word here is synthesizing. Mix them together, blend them together, and you see the literature is sweet. Then you discuss and evaluate the ideas that have been presented in those papers you're reading, the theories and the concepts. You discuss them. You're like, oh, okay, so person said this, but there's still a limitation. He could have extended this to that, or the method that he, excuse me, the method that he used is a method that has been maybe criticized by so. So you are more like looking for areas of debate or controversy in what the person has written. After all, you are trying to present a work, and that your work is trying to fill a void. And if there is no void to fill, then your work is not useful. Remember, you're trying to do work that is useful and that is timely. So all these things you're doing is to prepare the ground for the application of your own new idea. That you're trying to prepare the ground. I've said all these things I am saying so that I can now tell you people that there is a gap, and that is the gap I am filling. You have done your assignment in literature review. So Author A said this, Author B said it, Author C argued. But when you look at the three of them, there is still a small gap that they have not explored, and that is the gap I want to explore. You have done your literature review. This literature review, for a thesis, you should be looking at something above at least 8, 10, 15 papers, depending on your subject area. But make sure that these are accurate and up-to-date literature on those stuffs. Create an argument around it, synthesize them, and then establish the need for your own space. If you have not done that, then what is the need that you're doing? You're presenting your own work when you have set up this and there is no gap. There has to be an evident gap, no matter how small. No matter how small, this is what you want to contribute because the thesis is about original contribution. You want to contribute something to the body of literature and knowledge. For some reason, my so remember, for each article you see, this is what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking at the content of that article, a brief description of the content of the book or article. Remember that for every article you see, the author or the authors of that book or article, there is a point they are trying to make. The purpose of their research, the purpose of the paper they wrote is because they're trying to make one point. So look for that point, which means you don't just gloss over people's works. There is a there's a new kind of literature review that is evolving because it's been seen that what most students do, if you ask them to do literature review, they'll quickly read the abstract, quickly run to the conclusion to see what the book is about, and they just write up things. But to have a proper literature review, you should be able to look at that abstract and judge, okay, this is what I want to read. Read that paper completely. And then you need to know the method they used because maybe it's in that method that there is a shortcoming which you want to address. Maybe you want to change the method that it is done. So you need to read that book or that article completely to do a proper literature review. And you find their main argument. The main points or the main argument is usually in their abstract or in their conclusion, because that's where they say, and finally we have achieved this. So spot that main point that they're talking about. And then you know how it relates to your own research, how you pay consign what you're writing. Then that's for each article. You also need to do a critical analysis of reading. Look at the strengths and the weaknesses of the evidence they used and the arguments they presented, like I was saying earlier. Maybe if they had used a method, but that method is one that has been tried maybe after they used it and seen by different authors to not be the best. That is what you're looking for. Or maybe the sample size they used is a limitation on the study. That is good. Maybe they were supposed to have done a longitudinal research, maybe over some years, but they just did it quickly in a short period. That is what you're looking for because you want to argue. You want to say, what you did is good, but there is room for another one. It is not about critical analysis from critical, doesn't mean to criticize per se, it's not to talk down on the work. No, you're just looking for something that you can offer another perspective to it. Can the evidence be presented or interpreted in another way? For instance, if there is a stimulus they introduced, maybe they said that AI is now making young ladies dumb or something, and that is their conclusion. But could it be possible that it's not just the AI, that it could have been that at the same time that AI was being introduced to them, that teachers were taken from them, right? Maybe that's what the researchers did not consider in their research. You can now say, while AI could have been the cause of this, it's also possible that the teachers who were taken away from them contributed to this. You are not saying they have not done a good job. We are just saying that this is what could have been done differently. And in critical analysis, some people make mistakes and think that the only time you need to explain yourself is when you don't agree with someone. In research, well, if you disagree or you agree, it has to do with reason. For instance, I don't agree with what this person said because this. You also say, I agree with what this person said because of this. Overall, based on the analysis you have done of the person's work, how do you evaluate the contribution of your own work to the knowledge surrounding the topic? Digest every single article you will see for a literature review. That is the only way you will come out with a good literature review. That word review, like I said, it's review. You're not building a library. You're not trying to show us again what we know. But out of the information, can you make sense out of it? You know that for every data that is presented, there can be different ways to look at it. So, what your thesis is testing is your ability to see something in that field. If you notice in class, for instance, for every time you raise your hand to make a contribution, the lecturer will likely tell you, oh, that's a good point, or that's another way to look at it. Or I think, oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I think there is always room for new knowledge. That's why nobody's going to talk you down. Nobody's going to shout you down that what you're saying is not correct. No, you're just going to be able to contribute your own knowledge to that field. And that is what you're going to do in literature review. Read as wide and analyze those things. Sorry, guys, I'm just joking this evening. So we have done, if you remember, we started from abstract. We did introduction. Now we have done literature review and we want to look at methodology. Maybe methodology may be the last we'll do tonight because, yeah, so that you can digest the ones you have got and we'll continue from next class. But let's look at what methodology is. I will simply put it that methodology is what is your method? How did you do this? How did you do your research? Why did you do it that way? Forget about the bogusness of the word methodology. This is exactly what it is. You said that you're going to do so thing. You want to find out the effect of this stimulant on these people. How did you do it? Nothing else is a methodology. And why did you do it that way? Because there are different ways of doing research, the quantitative, the qualitative, the mixed methods. And for you to choose a particular way, there is why. Maybe it's because of the kind of topic you're doing. There are some topics that you'll be handling. You don't have anything to do with survey. You're not going to interview anybody. You're not going to collect data. Maybe you're doing something that's based on machine learning and stuff, and you have to just sit with you and your computer to do it. And you don't, and then somebody's doing a project that involves them talking to people. Your methodologies are different. And whatever one you choose, why did you choose that one? And for me, the easiest way to write a methodology is to write it in the simplest English. The way it's coming to your mind. For instance, I interviewed 5 girls from Omaha on the 27th of December. And on the 7th of December, the first 3 got back to me. The other 2 did not get back to me. I now collected this data that they gave me and transcribed it or coded it into different. You are just explaining to somebody how you did your work. The language might be different. It has to be formalized, but this is the basic way, first of all, to start drafting your methodology. Tell us exactly what you did. You cannot copy somebody's methodology. You don't have to speak bogus grammar around it. There's no verbosity. There's no vagueness. There's nothing like just going to any place to say this project adopted a quasi-experimental qualitative analysis. This you're just talking rubbish. Tell us what you did and tell us why you did it. Because if you just start talking what you do not know, what you did not do, the person who is scoring you will know. The person who is reading will know. And from reading several articles, you begin to pick the lingua of writing these things. You see how methodologies are written. And you now tailor your own to tell your story that way. And at the end of the day, you say, okay, and because of maybe because my project did not involve human participants, it was done within a period of June to July 2024 in a lab in this. How did you do it? Generally, a methods chapter written for a research proposal is written in the future tense. That for the course that you'll be told to write a research proposal, you'll be writing like, we will do this. But for your thesis, you are writing what you have done. So you're writing in past tense. Sorry, excuse me. I don't know if that makes sense. You're writing in past tense. I did this, we did this, using this was done, this was done. But if it's a research proposal, you're saying we will do it like this. We will do it like this. So know the difference. For your thesis, past tense. For a research proposal that you may already be writing now, write in future tense. Okay? Let's look at some of the things that differ between STEM and human and social sciences. What to do in their methodologies should be different, a bit different because some others involve more theory. For those of us in sciences and mathematics, technology, and co, you have to show why you have chosen your methodology and that it's suitable for the kind of research you have done. You have been taught about research methodologies, about quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, experimental, and all those things. You know what they mean. Choose the one that suits your project and show that the method you have chosen aligns with the questions you want to answer. For instance, if you're answering what is the effect of this, then what's the effect of AI on young girls learning? What is the effect and how does it affect? You see, in coining your research question, you need to know exactly what you want to get at the end of the day. There are some questions that tends towards a yes or no answer. Those kind of researches are more quantitative, like it's about quantities. Like if you want to answer something like, does fertilizers affect the growth of crops, for instance? It's different from how does fertilizer affect the growth of crops? If you are finding those, that you have a yes or no answer, any little change, either positively or negatively, answers your question yes. But if you want to do how, it's more explorative. You want to know how does it affect it positively, does it affect it negatively. So you know the one that's suited for quantitative and for qualitative kind of analysis. Qualitative is more like, let's just see how this thing works. Let's see how it affects. Let's see the quality of it. So you'll be seeing things like interviews, things like there are physical interviews and pre-test and post-test experiments and stuff like that. So know that your research question fits the method that you have chosen. It's your question. You know how you want to answer it. Do you want a yes or no answer, or do you want an explorative answer? Then you also give us the rationale for choosing the materials, the methods, and procedures. For instance, if you're doing coding, you want to code and you want to program on maybe C++, you need to, why did you choose that as opposed to coding in Java or in Python? Maybe because the dependencies is also programming language is more suited for what you want to do. Why did you choose it? What's the rationale? You are the one that when you were choosing it, you chose it by yourself. There is the reason you chose it. So tell us that reason. Write it yourself. That's the rationale for choosing the material. If you're doing maybe a lab experiment, biological kind of experiment, why are you using so reactants and the reagents? Why are you using a petri dish instead of a round bottom flat? So something. Give us the rationale. It might be because the reagents you're using, they're explosive or that is, you are describing what you have done and why you chose to do it. Then you give us the details of the materials, equipment, and the procedures. If you used two petri dishes, you write it, two petri dishes. If you used if you're programming or maybe you're building a system, if you used Windows operating system, the version of the Windows, even the RAM of the system, if it needs processing power, every detail that is going to allow somebody else to replicate the experiment. Every detail that if I read your paper and I want to do it myself, should be able to have all the details to allow me to replicate and get the same results. It's important because research is a continuum, and every day new technologies are coming up. People are testing, just like you are doing literature review of other people's work. Your own work will be reviewed by other people. So you want to give as much information as possible so that anybody that wants to redo your work, to replicate your work, will do it and get the same results. Because the bane of science is in reproducibility. It should be able to be reproduced. What you have done, somebody who does it should get exactly the same results. So if you don't tell us exactly what you have done, somebody will do it and not get the same result and think that what you have done is not right. So if you're programming, you're telling us the programming language, telling us the capacity of the system, the configurations, if you're using virtual machines, how many virtual machines, just tell us your setup so that somebody can reproduce exactly what you've done. It will allow somebody to understand your work and implement the same technical solutions that you have used. For humanities and social sciences that do a lot of interviews and qualitative analysis, you also need to show the fit between your chosen method and your research question. Then you now see how the data was collected, how it was recorded, how it was analyzed. Did you do interviews? When did you do it? How did you reach the participants? When did they respond? How many emails did you get back? Did you play audio? Did you record your audio and transcribe it from one language to the other? You have to show us how that data was collected so that somebody else who wants to do it will go and collect the same data and achieve the same result. Also show how you analyze data or how you coded the data, how that reminds me of those of you that are doing a course in that have been asked to analyze data from a government website. This is where you tell us this data was gotten from so website, downloaded to go to so website, and then it was cleaned to remove leading zeros or to fill void numbers. That if data is not clean. But if it was clean, you also see that at the time the data was already clear and it contains so arranged in so. And then I now used so tool to analyze it. So you're giving details of what you did, right? Then you also give the rationale for sampling or the choice of cases. Remember, this is particularly for humanities and social sciences mostly. Yeah. Show us how you collected that sample, like that example I was giving about young girls and AI. Why did you choose to collect from people in Omaha instead of people in Abakaleke? So was it because of accessibility? Was it because they had the more number of the target population? Tell us that. And then tell us the sources you used. If you used personal contacts, for instance, that the participants were recruited through personal contacts of the author, or that they were recruited through social media, or that they were recruited through a, a, a WhatsApp group of young girls in the East. Tell us how you sourced the data. The key is transparency and accountability. We want to be able to know exactly what you have done. Then the rationale for choosing those people, like I said earlier, why not choose these people? Why are you choosing these people? Then tell us your approach for the interpretation. How did you go about interpreting the data and why? That's for those of us in humanities and social sciences. Okay, I made it to the end of class for now. If you notice this, to be continued. Thank you. It's been a long ride from cover page to methodology. We still have a long way to go. Results, conclusion, abstracts and don't abstract appendices and bibliography. So, maybe in our next class, we'll take that. But for now, I think we can end it here. We've gone over 1 hour. Thank you very much.